2021 2022 NBA uniform rankings. We like to rank the uniforms typically at the start of a season. At this point, we're doing it more of a review at the end of a season. A couple things about the NBA is you have more uniforms in the NBA than you do in the other sports. So before you even try to rank these uniforms, it's difficult to even know what the standard or default uniforms even are. So we did our best to go with what we thought are the default uniforms.
Right, with so much variation, many teams being so inconsistent, it was difficult, but still trying to have a white and a color to go off of as the basic set.
As you said, we have a white uniform, which traditionally would have been home, and then their primary color uniform, which would have been road, but as we know, it can be anything now. Whether it's home, whether it's road, you just don't know until you turn the TV on and you see what the uniforms are for that day. It was a little more predictable during the playoffs, but compared to the other sports, it's a mystery with the NBA. A couple things we'll get out of the way before we get into the teams themselves is I'm going to say something about the necks for the jersey. We prefer the traditional round neck for the jersey. And then as you're going to see in all of the visuals here that there's tights for all the teams, and that's optional. That's not a part of what we consider the uniform, though I would say more than 75% of the players, it's probably about 90% of the players choose to wear them, but it's not the uniform. It's like putting a wristband on. And the final thing I'll say is all the graphics, the visuals are provided by Locker Vision. I appreciate that the NBA provided this for fans so we can track these, and at least we should have an idea of what these teams are wearing. So let's get into this. Number 30, we have Toronto Raptors.
And it seems that they really liked the North alternate uniforms that they had in the championship season in 2019, and they took that and made it their regular design with the chevron pointing upwards with the name in it, not the North this time, but actual Raptors. And to me, it does make you think of the championship win they had, but it's actually not better than the default that they had when they did win the championship that year. The arrow is just a bit too strong, and the letters being so uneven really kind of makes it an unbalanced looking uniform.
There are a couple things I want to say before I comment about the Raptors. Is growing up in the 90s era with NBA uniforms, they were loud. You had logos, team mascots on the jerseys, and the NBA decided to get very far away from that, and they decided to go in the direction of very plain and very bland. You can remember the Raptors, we had the actual Raptor with the basketball,
And
which is a turn back they've gone back and worn from time to time.
and shoes, yeah.
And now you have, jerseys like this. And very few teams have any kind of logo. I believe it's only three. It's the Jazz, the Spurs, and the Warriors. Otherwise, for the most part, it's just a team name, and then you see them doing something with the colors, or you see a strip or a band or something like the Raptors have here. So compared to, say, the NFL, you don't have the extreme differences with, I would say the terrible, awful uniforms, and then the elite. You just have a lot of teams that are sort of clumped together in the middle with just, again, boring uniforms, to be honest.
A lot of similarity.
There is not much variation. And I don't have a lot more to say about the Raptors except, they decided to do this design when they finally won an NBA Finals. I'm picking on the Raptors here, and I'm going to use them as an example. For teams that don't have a long history of winning or success, some kind of personalized touch on the jerseys would go a long way. And just some creativity. You don't need to do something wild. Please don't do anything crazy. But a little creativity would be welcomed. They're the only team that is from Canada, so that's an idea. The shorts are not big thing with me because what are you seeing? You're seeing from the waist up, but it's an odd choice.
Right, no contrast on the waist, the stripe on the left leg, and then the logo on the right, just kind of very plain and also inconsistent.
But we have said here it's number 30. It is the worst looking uniform because it just doesn't do anything for me. It's bad, I say, all the way around, but it isn't as bad as it could be.
Right.
Which we could say about a lot of NBA uniforms. It's just sort of, how'd you come up with this? Why did you go with this? Number 29, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
And especially with the white, it's the text stacked on top of each other, on top of the numbers as well. 3 pieces of text, looks very uneven, and they're all very close together. The striping on the sides and the neck are pretty decent, but especially with the white, it's uneven. The blue, the road is a little bit better with just the Thunder, but the white is what really brings this one down.
I'm going to back up a little bit and say one more thing about the Raptors, and this goes for uniforms in all sports across the board, is if you're the only team that goes with a particular design that hasn't been done before, it's probably a bad idea, and there's a reason why it hasn't been done, Raptors. Oh, the Thunder. Part of me would like to put the Thunder at number 30 just for, what you consider the white uniform. This would be a perfect example of why would you not just put Thunder on both?
Right.
Home and road. That would instantly make, as plain as the home is, better, because you have that long Oklahoma, and then you just have city, and then again, it's all smashed together with the number. The colors aren't so bad, the blue and orange, but the numbers aren't good. The font's not good. It's just, again, a weak uniform altogether. You compare it to the Sonics. I'm not saying they had the best uniform set, but it was a good uniform set. And when the team moved out to Oklahoma City, they had some good years when Kevin Durant was there, but my opinion is once Durant left, then you could have just contracted the Thunder. Just send him back to Seattle so you can have the Sonics again. they've been a loser franchise since.
Right.
I wouldn't miss them.
Right. A lot was lost with the Sonics, both the team, a team in Seattle, and the actual uniforms. And their blue actually looks very similar in a lot of ways to the Knicks in the 90s with the black on the sides. So, not original either.
Yeah, the blue's not bad, but overall, very forgettable.
Right.
And already in need. The first moment they had these, they already need a redesign.
Right.
It's pathetic they've stayed with these as long as they have. Number 28, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
And when they changed their uniforms, they were obviously trying to be unique and different, just like you were talking about with the Raptors, putting the striped line type design at the top. Not a clean, solid color, especially with the white, the top portion being the dark blue instead of just having a clean white all the way around. But especially the elements are so close together, the lines, the Wolves name, and the numbers. Could use more space in between all of those pieces would help. And the pants are fairly plain. No real contrast at the waist. Just the lines at the bottom of the knees.
Timberwolves have never had good uniforms at any point, but they've gotten worse here. They've hit a low, a franchise low. There's just too much blue. You don't have any other color. I like their other alternate where they actually have some green in it compared to these that we saw them wear in the playoffs at times, which was similar to what they've had in the past, not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having the bar there is a bad idea. I think the shorts are really bad too. It was a good idea trying not to have the full name Timberwolves on there like Oklahoma City. It's too long, so I like the decision of going with Wolves. It's just, the neck doesn't work, having the neck the way they do, then having the bar, then having the name. Something has to go there. It's just too busy, and you've got to have some other. I mean, blue's my favorite color, but you've got to have something other than just multiple shades of blue, and that's something that we have a problem with the Grizzlies when we get there also. They need something new, or they can go back to that alternate that they use. Number 27, the Indiana Pacers.
And they revised both of their uniforms to have both their city name and their name. And they revised both their uniforms to have their state name and team name in a circle surrounding the number. It's just really hard to read. It's just visually difficult to focus. And the number is very easy to focus on and prominent, but the other elements, they should either just use one or the other. Indiana or Pacers, home, road. The piping on the sides of the jersey and the pants are broken up into stripes, and just not what you would think of with the Pacers, and not consistent with the rest of the design, and a lot worse than having pinstripes, which is what they used to have back in the 90s, for example.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I don't understand why you would think it'd be necessary to have both the city, or in this case, the state. I don't know why you'd have to have both names on there, why that's necessary, and fitting them around the number, just pick one. But everything's weak about this, and yeah, the piping's just atrocious on the sides. I've generally liked everything the Pacers have had going back to prior years. Anything's been better than this, especially like the pinstripes that you mentioned. But this is another team that desperately needs to either go back to an old uniform or just redesign, because I couldn't imagine they'd come up with anything much worse than this.
Right.
Colors are good. There's nothing wrong with the colors. It's just all the design. Number 26, the Washington Wizards.
And this is a sort of throwback to the original Bullets uniforms. And at this point, they're not really the Wizards anymore, just in the name. So makes it even more strange, the design, but just the alternating color sections and the fact that the numbers are in between the blue and white in the middle makes it very hard to read. Too many different colors. I do think that the Wizards' name, titles, and Washington are fairly unique, more unique than many uniform designs, but still there's so many elements for this set that are unclean and unbalanced looking, makes it hard to focus, hard to read. Same with the shorts, just thick stripe, and then the design at the bottom. The DC logo looks okay.
No, I'm starting off talking about the team name, but they need a new name. They had the Bullets, and for obvious reasons, you can't call your team the Bullets anymore, but the NBA already had the Magic. And then you have the Wizards. It's very redundant there, and they just need something new, there's something original. It's not even a good name anyway, the Wizards. But getting to the actual uniforms here, I like the colors. Again, red and blue, and going back to similar to what they had with the Bullets, it's
The bar.
in the middle that you have that section on the white with the blue, and then you see on the red it has the white. Just remove that and then get rid of, let's just call it on the white, the red section, shoulder neck area, where the neck is on the white, and the blue on the red just needs to go. But they need a new team name, redesign. It certainly could be worse than this, but you don't need to have something halfway cutting into the numbers.
Very similar to the Raptors, as we've talked about, trying to be unique and different, but doesn't usually turn out well.
Number 25, the New Orleans Pelicans.
And in some ways, it's a good set with the arrangement of the titles and numbers, and the striping is consistent on the sides of the jersey, but coming to the strange shape and point, of course, at the top of the jersey and at the bottom makes it look awkward. And just having New Orleans for both also would be nice to have Pelicans on one of them.
Yeah, my main issue here is that striping, piping on the side that points out almost, it's diamond-like. Why? The font is weak for the team, the city name, and then the numbers are like Anaheim Angels, not Los Angeles Angels. For them, it's Anaheim Angels. Numbers just need a new redesign. They're another team that falls into that category. They're dull. They have no character at all. it's time for something new. Number 24, the Memphis Grizzlies.
And they're just very plain. Don't have a lot of problems with the colors or the design as much, but the font is very plain, and the numbers and the titles, Memphis, are very close together, too close together. And especially when they wear their retro 90s uniforms, even though those weren't maybe perfect, have a lot more character and color and interesting elements to it.
Yeah, they need a new logo. That's a place to start. And I know the 90s one was very loud and in your face, but it was better than this.
Right.
These the white, there's nothing wrong with it, really. We could nitpick, but it is as plain can be. What I really dislike and why it's this low for us, it's the blue. It's the same thing we spoke of earlier with the Timberwolves. It's just two shades of blue here, and then you have this yellow line, which I don't like, that goes down the side and then on the shorts. The numbers, again, have sort of a line inside, which I don't like either. No creativity at all. They have a young, up-and-coming team, and they're in a fairly exciting team, entertaining team, and this is what they wear. It's just bad. Come up with something that catches the eye. I'm not saying crazy colors, but could you at least go back to the colors maybe they had before?
That'd be much more iconic.
Number 23, the Sacramento Kings.
And these are fairly good in a number of ways. The arrangement of the elements, the striping on the sides provides good structure, and just simple color selection makes it pretty strong. Not as strong as the uniforms they used to have, especially, say, in the 90s, but fairly good compared to so many.
Yeah, purple is traditionally thought as a color of royalty, and that's what they went with here with the Kings. And we think of the Lakers with purple, but these have always been different enough that they're their own unique uniforms. Again, it's not all bad here. The white is okay. I would like to see something more, though, that would be like a royal text, more what they had in the past, something special. Just so plain for a team that's called the Kings. The SAC is terrible. Just do what they've done in the past. Have Kings on both. But having the SAC on there, just having 3 letters looks bad for any team.
And they're dark. They don't match the numbers. Being white makes it difficult to read, definitely.
22, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And a lot of changes have happened, of course, since LeBron James left. Things been even plainer since then. The white is decent in ways. The text is fairly iconic and easy to read, but the font is a little strange, being pointy, and especially in the numbers, top of the 4. The shorts are very plain. Red uniform is a little bit better in that way, but overall they have been better in the past, especially with the red one. The Cleveland and the numbers being different colors, be better just to be yellow. they've been better, but still not as bad as some.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to especially the first NBA Finals that the Cavs were in against the Warriors, going back to 2015. I didn't love that set, but I like them more than this. The white here is very plain, and yeah, I don't like that pointed look either. I preferred that blue. They had the same colors then, but the main color uniform and jersey were blue, and then the numbers and the team name that also had the yellow and the red, but it was more balanced. Here it's I don't like the fact that you have the yellow for the team name and then the numbers are primarily blue.
Right, it's just inconsistent and hard to read, and just especially with the red one, it's just too many different colors too. You got your dark blue, yellow, burgundy, white. Just two colors would be better.
Number 21, the Orlando Magic.
And with the white one especially, the numbers and lettering is so thick, and the borders are so thick that it's hard to read. The old logo and font from the 90s, for example, maybe you would say it wasn't great, but it was more iconic, cleaner, not all caps, and it actually had the basketball with the lines and stars going through it. And for both uniforms, no pinstripes that are really easy to see. There is some striping, but what they had in the 90s was more definitive and set things off better. These two try and have a little of that, but it's very mild, and the side paneling is too thick, and the bottom of the shorts with the triangles just doesn't work well together with the other elements.
You know what the problem is when I'm looking at these uniforms is? There's nothing magical about them. And I'm really not trying to be funny. I'm serious.
Ordinary, they're lacking any special elements at all. They just blend in with the other uniforms around the league. I dislike most of the numbers in the NBA, and that's the same thing here. There's not any one thing I strongly dislike. It's just, it's time for some creativity. It's time for something that has a magical feel to it. There's no star. Maybe people didn't like that in the past, but you gotta do something here, and I feel like something should be added in. It wouldn't hurt to have a visual or graphic of logo of some sort here, especially for this team. They have nothing.
And I would like to see them have blue instead of black.
I'm with you on that.
They had that in the past. It was a much nicer alternate than the black, which so many teams have, and many teams have blue, but especially for the Magic, it really worked well in the past and is a nice opposite to their white and blue.
Yeah, going way back, they were one of the only teams in the league that actually had black as a primary road uniform. But at this point, every single team I shouldn't say every single team, I'd have to check that, but about every single team has a black uniform now. And I prefer the blue as well. And I like the black I like the black, but as an alternate.
Right.
Number 20, the Houston Rockets.
And what they have now is similar, especially the home is somewhat of a throwback to the 90s and prior to that when they had just the white and red before the Hakeem Olajuwon type uniforms in the mid to late 90s with the actual rocket on cartoon rocket on it with the basketball. This is somewhat in between. The white is pretty good, simple, fairly easy to read, but the red, they don't need the black at all. Just substitute white for that, and they both say Rockets, no Houston on either. The logo on the side of the shorts is somewhat iconic, but not particularly strong.
Yeah, the word for this is simplistic. It's an average NBA uniform. I've never liked, I thought it's a very poor logo, is the R for Rocket with the hoop around it. I've thought that's always been terrible over the years. I would agree that the actual rocket, even though I liked it at the time, but looking back now, it was a bit much having that on the uniform. But they went from that to years and years and years of these ultra plain uniforms. I'd love to see them go back to the 90s. Let's call them the Hakeem Championship Rockets, where they have some yellow in there. Not a lot, but they have a little yellow in there. But the primary colors are red and white. They weren't flashy, but very solid uniforms. As you said, the neck is really bad on the red, the black. Make it white. Right. The same thing with the shorts. Just replace where you have the black with white. And right there, you'd have a better uniform. But it's time to design something new or go back to the past. At number 19, the Denver Nuggets.
A lot of different colors, especially the white. Should just be either red or blue. Even though that's very plain and boring, at least it would match better. The design at the bottom of the shorts is really inconsistent with the straight lines in the waist and the actual collar and sleeves. The dark one's a little bit better, but again, the different colored name Denver and the white numbers, white striping, borders, everywhere else, it's too inconsistent. It would help if they matched.
I like the blue overall. It's okay. My problem here again is with the one I dislike is the white. It's just choose your colors. You have on the blue you have yellow and white, and then on the white there's no yellow that I can see of, except just there's a little tiny bit around the shoulder and the neck. You can barely see it there, but you really don't have yellow on the jersey itself, and you've replaced it with red. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work there. Just make up your mind. There's got to be some consistency with home and road, or whatever you want to call them at this point. It's too different, and the red against the navy blue here, they just compete, and it doesn't work.
Right, and even their alternates that they wore this year, the dark blue one with the more 70s, 80s style font had the matching name and number color in ways was better than these.
The yellow works on the blue, even though it's not really elsewhere on jersey. It's just, that white. I don't think it works, the red against the blue, because you have two different colors, at least yellow and white are those lighter colors.
Right.
But do something with the home. I mean, anything that they've rolled out for home, including white alternates, they're just bad.
Right.
It's time to I think it's just time to redesign these altogether. And I'd be a fan of going back to most of the past looks, and that's what I know a big reason why they end up wearing alternates a lot, and they did wear alternates often in the playoffs. Number 18, Dallas Mavericks.
And they've had these for a fairly long time, or those that were similar,
Too long.
right? The name and the numbers are way too close together, making it jumbled, difficult to read in ways, very inconsistent striping and designs on the shoulder to the midsection of the jersey, and then the top of the shorts are dark blue and the bottom is white. Again, it should be one color going into another, not alternating. It would look better for the white. And then, as you said, having too many shades of blue, the same color on the blue jersey, having Dallas in dark lettering and the numbers in white just makes it hard to read and inconsistent.
Yeah, I'd just be repeating myself, saying the same thing as I did with the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. It's better than those, but it's just the same problem. It's an it's an average uniform as far as what the standards are for the NBA now. Is look at if we were to assign a letter grade, and we will at the end here for each team, but there's the majority, about a third of the league, practically a half of the league, just falls in this, well, they're okay. And that's the Mavericks for me, and I've just been amazed how long they've had these. I don't cringe when I turn the TV on and see these, but it's more like they still got these, huh?
Right.
For all these years. We either design something new or we go something back to the past. Number 17, the Brooklyn Nets.
And these are very plain in so many ways, and very unoriginal too. Reminds you of the Spurs first and foremost, and then you have Brooklyn on both. No Nets. Maybe that is somewhat of similarity to the Knicks, but they really want to emphasize their city name more so. They do have Nets in the small logo at the bottom of the shorts, but nowhere else. And the striping on the sides is thin. It's okay, but the bottom of the shorts going off to an angle, diamond, doesn't work very well.
Yeah, for the Nets, I agree with all that you said there. And I also think that they're, as much as they're trying to be an original team and they're putting an emphasis on Brooklyn, you're copying the Knicks by just having, the city name on there. The logo is weak. The Brooklyn logo, the Nets logo, they're as plain could be. There's nothing that, I shriek when I see it, but I'm a big fan of that alternate navy blue they have with Nets.
Right.
If they went with that, they would shoot up our rankings quickly.
Right.
Because, I see that and I say, wow, now that's a team, and that's the only team that has that type of look. Even though it's blue and red, the Spurs are white and black. And if you think the viewers of the NBA and the fans are going to associate the Nets before the Spurs, or at least anyone with any sense of history, they're not. And I don't think the Nets are going to be winning anything anytime soon, regardless of what happens with Kevin Durant. I didn't like, be clear, I did not like the Jason Kidd Nets. Those were very ugly. in some ways, I'd take these over those. But just go with that navy blue and then make a white version of it. And then I think you have your solution right there. But yeah, these to me just get lost in the crowd. Number 16, the Los Angeles Clippers.
And the font especially just stands out. Blocky, stretched, and it's both blocky and too thin at the same time, I would say. The old cursive Clippers, to me, looked a lot nicer, and it would be nice to see something similar to that, or something more iconic like that. The sides of the shorts especially don't really match the rest of the design very well. Very thick, and does not come to an end completed at the bottom of the shorts. The colors are pretty good, but that's probably the strongest thing you can say about them.
Yeah, that's it for me. Is the colors are good. The design could be worse, but the Clippers have always tried to get the attention of Los Angeles, and they never really have been. I feel like even calling them a little brother of the Lakers is giving them too much credit, because they're not even a little brother of the Lakers. They're not even a shadow of the Lakers. They're almost like a minor league basketball team, though they made to the playoffs, and at times they've gotten far in the playoffs, but it seems like every time they have success, the Lakers are right back in the spotlight again, and the uniforms don't help because they have again, it's not so much the color scheme, but the design. It needs improvement, and there's nothing that says to me, oh well, that's the other team in Los Angeles. No, it's just some team we can't take seriously.
And they don't have Los Angeles anywhere on their uniform at all either.
Number 15, Detroit Pistons.
Also some nice elements with the colors and the titles. Pistons and the numbers remind me a little bit of the Knicks, but especially Pistons is a little more iconic than a lot of teams. It's not just super thin and modern. The numbers are a little pointy and big. The stripe on the side is pretty good and consistent, but there have been better Pistons uniform sets in the past.
To me, this is the definition of an average team. That's why I have them right here at number 15 out of 30. Colors are fine, just as we said with the Clippers. I've just never been crazy about them. Go back to the Isaiah Thomas Pistons, go back to the Grant Hill Pistons, whether that be these colors or that turquoise color, which you and I actually really like that, and I thought the logo was very cool at the time. I know they're going to be bringing those back as an alternate. I'm excited to see those, but I'd like to see either of those over this. Just average.
Very average.
Miami Heat.
And the white is still the stronger one with the name Heat, but it would be even stronger, as we discussed before this, if it had the basketball still as a part of the Heat titles with the flames coming out of it. The Heat titles and the numbers are a bit close together. It was nicer when they were spaced out a bit better back in the 90s, for example. The striping on the sides is fairly decent, provides good structure, and it's nice that they do have the Heat logo basketball with the flames coming out on the shorts, but it's too bad that they didn't include that in the top. And for the color, it would be nice if it was red instead of black. And I do like a city name as an alternative to Heat, but having Heat for both was better in the past.
Don't have much to add to that. I like to see the logo back on the jersey. I think Heat looked better on both. I suppose we can give them a little credit for having the flame on the tee, but it's not much. At this point, these are the uniforms they've had the most success in. They've won championships, and even before LeBron James, in these. They're okay, but they could be better.
Right.
And yes, black is not a hot color.
Nope.
You may like to see black and it looks good on people, but it's not when you think of what the team name is supposed to be. Red or an orange. In this case, it should be a hot red,
Right.
not black. And a whiteout, the same thing. They've done the whiteout over the years at home. White's a cool color. And sure, you're going to have that as a home, but again, it kind of goes against the team name.
Right.
Number 13, the Phoenix Suns.
The white is very average. Suns and the numbers are a bit too close together. The font is kind of chunky and large, and there's no basketball with the sun flames coming out of it either. It's just a bit too plain after what they had in the 90s, for example. And the side paneling is just inconsistent. And, of course, the Valley, we've talked so much about it being somewhat of an imitation of their 90s uniforms, but weaker. And it doesn't even say the Suns' name on it at all. And it's pixelated. You can give them some credit for having some color and a little bit of imagery to make it more interesting, but all they have is the Suns on the side of those shorts, and that's probably the best element of that jersey.
Yeah, the white and then what we would call traditionally the purple road or just the other main uniform, they both just put me to sleep. You know, I do cringe when I see, and I sigh when I see, that's actually probably not honest. I actually am disgusted when I see the Suns wear the Valley as much as they do. It's not that it's so bad, it's just the idea. It reminds me so much of that 90s uniform with the sun, and you can see that on the court there. They'll wear the orange just with the basketball, which is another one I don't like because, again, it's close, but it's not the right one.
Right.
You know, you have all these reminders of their best uniforms, and they don't wear them. Or you see in the crowd, you see these fans with that, and you should never be saying, oh, well, what the fans are wearing in the crowd is so much better than what the players are wearing on the court, and that's what you have it. I mean, I really like the colors on the Valley, but why would you settle for that?
Right.
And it became their primary uniform all the time, even though they kept losing big games. I couldn't get over that. They lose the NBA Finals to the Bucks, and then this past year, they just kept on wearing them and wearing them and wearing them. And you know how superstitious teams are in sports. If you have a big loss in them, you're going to stop wearing them, especially if it was the theme of the team, theme uniform of the team a whole year as it was, and they came short.
Right. Very surprising. They were the only team, along with the Nuggets, that carried over their previous alternate uniforms from the previous season, and It doesn't even say the team name on it. When teams love to mix things up so much as they do now in the NBA, they wore them every single playoff game at home. The year after they lost to the Bucks, moving forward, we'll see if they bring them back again. But
Yeah, or at least could we put the Suns on them if they're going to be wearing them as much as they are, because it's just the City, City Connect, City Edition, NBA City Edition uniform. Number 12, the Milwaukee Bucks.
fairly clean in both cases, and the titles and numbers are okay. The side piping is a bit strange, and the colors they chose to include in those are a bit strange. I'll let you talk more on that.
Yeah, well, I like the colors. The green's good for the Bucks. We grew up with the purple for the Bucks, which
Right.
is kind of odd when you think about it now. But I like every time I look at these, I say, "Oh, they're close." There's just that one thing that always bothers me: it's the piping on the sides. I just don't understand. I feel like that's what's holding these back from being better. What I would like to see is I'd like to see a little stronger font for the name for the home. I think the home's fairly plain. I've really come to like the road greens. Other than the piping, I consider that aside, they are above average uniforms.
Right, the alternate one that they use this year had a bit stronger Bucks titles font, and it was similar to the Bulls actually, and it worked better.
Number 11, the Charlotte Hornets.
And this is a very similar set to the original set they had before they left for New Orleans in the 90s, except that the numbers are big and blocky and too close to the names, both the city name and the team name. Like to see that changed back to the original number font and dropped lower on the jersey. And the shorts are really underwhelming. They don't match very well with the jersey, with the pinstripes like the old ones did.
Yeah, the reason we have these as high as we do is the colors. I do like that they have the stripes. Not as strong as what we've seen in the past, but I do really like the team colors. But they do stand out among a league of boring and dull uniforms. A few improvements would bring them higher on the list, but overall I give them credit for being as good as they are. Number 10, Utah Jazz.
And one of the greatest strengths for this is that they actually have some imagery, some iconic logo as part of the jersey. The note J in the word jazz and actual other letters are also strong and iconic too. The numbers don't really go well together with that in either case, and they're a bit too close to the title, the name as well. The side striping on the jersey is okay to about the quarter point, and then it just trails off. It doesn't finish. And the only really strong point in the shorts is the logo on the left pant leg.
These are above average. I like them overall. For the white, I don't understand the green numbers. Blue would look just fine. They'd actually match. I prefer that earlier 90s was purple and yellow kind of look that they had.
Right.
I can see why people felt like they were too similar to the Lakers. I can understand that. But we're both in the minority here. By far, our favorite Jazz uniform was the one with the mountains. I know generally fans don't like them. I loved them. They were creative. They weren't over the top, but they went along with Utah. Great colors. I do applaud them for actually having a real logo in here, but they're just not among the elite. They're very good for current NBA uniforms, but they're not great. Number 9, Philadelphia 76ers.
Good colors, very nice structure, especially with the striping on the collar and sleeves and along the side with the piping. Also the 76 logo on the shorts, but it's too bad that the pants have that notch and don't finish the stripes straight. But overall, very good in many ways.
Yeah, I really like the colors are great. The piping, for the most part, I don't like around the league. I really do like the stars here. The only improvement I'd really make is the neck. If these had a round neck, they'd be even higher, but I have to say 76ers are doing well with these uniforms. Number 8, the New York Knicks.
Very nice colors and good font for New York, and the numbers and strong neck contrast and design and shoulder sleeve stripe, and having the logo on the shorts is very strong. Be nice if the New York and numbers were a little farther apart spaced, but overall very good.
Traditional, very good. Like the colors. Sorry Thunder, it works a lot better here. They've got a better, more closer to a royal blue here, better shade of blue. The only improvement I'd really make is I'd like to see Knicks on the white or on one of these. Assuming that the white would be the home, I'd like to see Knicks on it instead of New York. Otherwise, very well done, and I'm glad that they've kept these as long as they have. Number 7, the Atlanta Hawks.
Very nice overall. The neck, the striping on the neck and the shoulders going all the way down, the jersey and the shorts, very consistent, keeping that pattern and design between both parts, and the Atlanta name, the font used, both for the Atlanta name and the numbers, very traditional and strong and iconic.
These are among some of my favorite uniforms in the league, and I was even surprised going through the uniforms, thinking to myself, wow, the Hawks, I almost forget they have these. They just don't wear them enough, but when they do, I always actually take a step back. I'm like, wow, those are really great uniforms because they're just well-rounded. They're well-balanced with what the primary color is with red. They have just the right amount of outline, the piping or the stripes on the side just right. I really applaud them for having these uniforms. They just got to wear them more consistently because, hey, at number 7, they're among the best. They've got the good neck.
It would just be nice to have the name Hawks on one, but it's a very minor thing.
Right. I mean, you could say the same thing as the Knicks, but yeah, there's very little to complain about here at all. Number 6, Portland Trailblazers.
And they've kept the same look for a long time, just minor changes to the font, but The stripe really works in this case. It is iconic. It sets things off well. It's strong. And the red border on the neck and the shoulders goes well with it. There isn't a whole lot to the shorts, but because the jersey is so strong, that is okay, really.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of the Trailblazers and have enjoyed whenever they've been good because they have one of the strongest uniforms they've had. Is about as far back as I can remember watching. One of my favorites, whether it's home or road. My only weakness is the neck. I like to see the round neck, but the design is very good. It's unique, but it works. It's not just different to be different. It's not different just to stand out and try something new for the sake of doing something that someone else hasn't. It really does work for the Trailblazers.
One of the most underrated uniform sets in all of sports.
Number 5, the San Antonio Spurs.
Very clean, very well organized. The nice collar and sleeve design, the name and the numbers are spaced out well enough, and they do have actually a logo, like you already mentioned, in the name, which is nice to make it more interesting and iconic. And the side striping, piping is very good too. Just wish that they had the original Spurs font still, but other than that, very small issue.
It was a pleasure when the Spurs were going to the finals so many times and all the success they had over the years, because you were able to see one of the best uniform sets in the NBA. I've often considered them like the Raiders in the NFL, that they have really two colors. The Raiders have the silver and black. They're really just black and white. There's a little gray in there, but for the most part, it's just black and white. But it works so well. It's so clean, well designed. They're not spectacular, but they always have your respect. I'm saying the same thing as I did for the Trailblazers. Just go back to the original neck, though.
Right.
The round neck looks best, but overall very pleased that they maintained, for the most part, they've done very little to modify what has been so successful and what works for the organization. Now, number 4, we come to the best of the best. This is the top tier of the NBA. And because so many uniforms are, again, fall in that category of just being average or mediocre, we had a larger elite group in the NFL. We had a very small group. We had some very good ones that didn't quite make the cut with the Spurs and the Trailblazers, Hawks, Knicks, 76ers. They're very good. But we just don't have as many strong elite standouts as we have in the NFL. But this category, though, they're clearly above the rest. So number 4, the Chicago Bulls.
Great elements in all areas for the most part. It's strong neck design and shoulder design with the striping, the piping. The font Bulls is strong, even though it's arching, it's still very strong. It doesn't take away at all. The numbers are solid block numbers. The waist and the shorts matches very well with the bottom of the shorts, and the diamond logo with the bull head in it works well for the Bulls.
I'm about to get to what I really like about these, but I'm going to say I love the Bulls, but I do feel that they're slightly overrated. And we haven't been number 4, but I feel like they are slightly overrated in my opinion because Michael Jordan played for the Bulls, because they had all that success. They had 2 3-peats in the 90s. When we were growing up, the team was not the Lakers, it was not the Celtics. The team was the Chicago Bulls, and rightfully so, but they were only good for the 90s, and they've been just your average team that's gotten to the playoffs. They've had a lot of bad years, they've had some good years, but they've never come close. They've never even been to a conference finals since the days of Michael Jordan. But with that said, the white is very good. My favorite is the red. And unfortunately, we didn't really get to see that in the playoffs this year. It was white and black. But my favorite uniform is the all red traditional road uniform. And I am so pleased that they really haven't done much at all to alter these. These are just about the identical uniform from the Jordan 90s era, except of course, yeah, you have the sponsors and the ads, and don't ask me why they couldn't match and make the blue red on the home.
Right.
I don't understand that, but we're not counting that against teams. But it is one of the strongest uniforms. You know who they are. It's the best red uniform in the NBA. They look good with whatever combination. You see the white, the red, they've had the black. I prefer them to stick with these 2, but if the Bulls show up with one of these, they're usually going to be the best team on the court, with the only exceptions are our final 3, but just excellent design, good numbers, well balanced. I know we talked about the diamond look for the shorts, but it works in their case. And I like the stripes on the top and bottom of the shorts. And they don't need a third color. I mean, other than they just have the red and then you have the black. You don't need to have anything other than that, and we don't count white as a color. Sometimes simple is good. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors.
Very unique with having imagery in the actual jersey with the bridge and within a circle. Very iconic for that reason. And they have Golden State and they have Warriors, for example, like the Pacers do, but the way it is spaced out and the size of Golden State and Warriors being different, it really works. The neck is strong with the strong contrasting blue or yellow. The side is fairly strong. The piping and the bridge at the bottom of the shorts works fairly well.
Well, I'm glad you said what you did about the Pacers, and I had the complaint of why would you need both? You don't need to have both. This is the one team where it actually works because it's small and it is spaced out. The Golden State is small, the Warriors is larger, but they've got enough space with the logo in between. You didn't have that with the Pacers. Unless you can pull this off, forget about it, and the Warriors do pull it off. I'll just get out my only complaint and my only weakness is I prefer the round neck, and I'm going to keep saying that. Otherwise, though, these are here for a good reason, top 3. The white home is good, and I like on both jerseys that you have the neck, I think, is especially good. As far as having the color, the blue on the white home and the yellow, I love. The white's good, home, but it is my opinion that the road blue is one of the top 3 uniforms in the whole league. It's so strong. And it's sort of a sore point where I've had a hard time accepting when the Warriors wear black as much as they do. And in this last NBA Finals against the Celtics, I didn't think the way they were going, we weren't looking ahead intentionally of what the teams were going to wear, but I didn't think they were going to be wearing black. Once they start wearing black as much as they did, by the game 6, I just figured, oh, well, they're just going to wear black all the way.
Right.
And it was a pleasant surprise. And did they ever look good wearing blue against the Celtics in Boston and winning it? They couldn't have looked better, the Warriors. And again, I really like the yellow outline on the shoulders, the neck, against the blue. As I said, the Bulls had the best red uniform. Warriors have the best blue in the NBA.
Right, and ever since with the blue uniform, they made the change and inverted the name and bridge logo and numbers from yellow with blue bridge and numbers to this version now with the blue with the yellow bridge and numbers to match the home. It just looks that much cleaner and sleeker and consistent, and to win the championship in those uniforms, clinch it, couldn't have looked better.
Yeah, I really do like the yellow. They're turn back yellow, but you do already have that with the Lakers. They really have an original look, and this is one of the first team I think of when I think of blue. It's now the Warriors. There have been other successful teams in the past, but that's what I identify as the NBA's primary blue team. And I'm glad these uniforms have stuck, and I hope they just continue to wear these, even though the Warriors have a lot of great alternates from the past. Just keep wearing these from here on out. Number 2, the Boston Celtics.
No real weaknesses. It's just one of the best sets there is. It's where we have it at number 2, in that the neck and the shoulder borders piping is consistent and strong with the shorts. The titles are thin and all caps, yet spaced well and close together and strong enough and clean enough that works very well. The numbers are thicker, but in a very strong way. And the waist is a nice contrast with the green on the white and the white on the green, with the clover and the shorts, just a very strong structured border of piping on the side and at the bottom.
I absolutely love the Celtics. I practically gush over the Celtics, whether it's home or road. My favorite is the road green, but anytime they wear one of these two, I'm excited. And even if it's a bad game, I'm going to sit down and watch a little bit because I like these that much. They're the traditional uniform. I'm so glad they've stayed with these. Everything is so balanced. The name titles are great. The numbers are great. The shorts match the jersey. What's amazing about the Celtics is they only have one color. We talked about the Spurs having white, black, and some gray. They make the most of one color, the color green. They don't need a second color. Some of the alternates, they've tried crazy things, and my complaint is they've had too many alternates, and they get away from these, which to me, for them, is perfection. It's as good as it gets for the Celtics. There's no weakness with these. I get upset when they wear the alternates, whether that be the black, even though it's maybe the best black in the NBA. It's not as good as these. It's not the team color. It's actually the opposite of the white. I don't need to see, the clover version of the shorts. I don't need to see any what you'd call gold in the uniforms. These are all-time great uniforms. They're timeless uniforms. They can't wear them enough. I just say don't even wear any alternates, period.
Right.
I know the league has to at this point, and they have to when they have the opportunity to. Well, I guess they don't have to, but they don't see that there's a choice when they can sell so many different types. There's no weakness. They have strengths from top to bottom. And as we come to number one, we had struggle and we had some debate over what number one, number two, and number one ought to be. We did choose the Los Angeles Lakers. They are our choice, our selection as the number one team.
And it was difficult because we felt the Celtics were overall a set that had no flaws at all. And that goes for both uniforms. But the Lakers, we felt, especially the yellow, was the strongest of any uniform of any team, and that made it rise to the top. The yellow, especially bringing back the classic look and even improving it in some ways with the number shadow. The name Lakers is just one of the best titles of any team, and the way the letters are spaced is just perfect. It flows well. The numbers are very strong block numbers. The borders on the neck are very structurally strong. They have very good contrast in the waist, especially with the yellow, and with the team logo at the waist, and the piping, striping on the shorts is very strong. A little less so with the purple, with the black, but still has the same features that the yellow has too.
Yeah, with the Celtics, I'd say the Celtics had the best uniform set.
Right.
And the reason, as you said, we picked the Lakers was their yellow home uniform is the best uniform in the NBA. Without a doubt, it is number one. The road is still very good. What I don't like is that they have this larger black piping now, which they did not originally have. If it wasn't for that, I'd still say the Lakers have the best all-around set. It's just that yellow home uniform by far is the best in the NBA. It's all about the contrast. And even though it's not a blue or a red, it's not the most primary. Well, it is a primary color. Yellow is a primary color, but it's not blue or red. It's the best, period. And, I was very disappointed when the Lakers, let's just call it the Kobe Bryant and Shaq years where Phil Jackson was the coach, I was very disappointed that they had vests.
Right.
They had vests their entire run, and I was thrilled when they went back to these uniforms, and they even cleaned them up.
Right.
They went back to the round neck, and they still have a little bit of shadow on the numbers, but they had too much originally.
Right.
This is just right. It's perfect. The way they did it with these. And with the Lakers home, it dazzles. It has a wow factor that you don't have with any other uniform. It was interesting that when they brought the white around, but again, you can't improve upon this. It doesn't get any better than this. This is what they need to wear, and they've gone so far overboard with alternate uniforms. Just wear these two. Get rid of that black on the purple uniform, and you have perfection for the Lakers with both. But don't wear the alternates as much as they do, at least in the playoffs. Only wear these because it's the champion's uniform.
Right.
It finally comes down to contrast, and they do contrast better than any other team with the yellow and the purple. So here you'll see our overall grades for every single team. As we said it the whole time, there's average uniforms. That is what you have when you look over the whole league. You have some bad uniforms, you have some outstanding, superb, excellent uniforms, but for the most part, the league average is average, and so many teams are clumped together, and they need makeovers, they need redesigns, and we only had, well, a couple teams that we say, well, that's the best uniform set they've ever had. We said that in the NFL too, but we say that same with the NBA. I don't even think I could count on. I couldn't find 10 teams in the league where I said, well, that's the best uniform they've ever worn. I'd only say that with the Lakers, the Celtics. You could argue for the Warriors. That's a debate. The Bulls, and I'd say the Knicks are the only teams that, looking over the whole league, and perhaps the Hawks, you could throw the Hawks in there, that these are truly the best uniforms that the franchise has ever worn. So that's the state of the NBA with uniforms.